Hi friends! Have you ever wondered why we are so captivated by stories of good versus evil? On the surface, they seem like simple tales. But why do they evoke such strong emotions, making us root for heroes and condemn villains? I've thought about this a lot. These stories resonate because they touch something deeply human, a longing for justice, clarity, and meaning. But what if the real power of these stories isn't in their simplicity, but in their complexity? Today, I want to explore how these narratives mirror our real lives, where the line between good and evil is often far more blurred. We'll dive into the hidden meanings in the movie Wicked and uncover how they can help us better understand ourselves and others. Stay with me until the end, and I'll share practical ways to find balance between these opposing forces and avoid falling into the traps of manipulation. Before we dive in, think back to a time when you were unfairly judged. Do you remember how it felt? For me, it happened during my first months in Paris. I was new to the culture, the language, and the unspoken rules of life here. I remember someone dismissing me in the conversation because of my accent. I didn't feel small, but I did feel misunderstood. It was frustrating, and it made me wonder how often we misjudge others without really knowing their story. In those moments, it's almost as if we become the villains in someone else's story. But here's the twist. What if good and evil aren't opposites, but parts of a complex whole? What if learning to see both sides of a conflict is the key to becoming stronger and more empathetic? Why is it so hard for people to embrace someone else's otherness? Take Elphaba, the main character in Wicked. She was cast out simply because of her green skin. Her difference became a symbol of her otherness, and that was enough for people to reject her. This part of the story reminds me of a time in school when a friend stopped talking to me because I chose to stand up for someone they didn't like. I was shocked at how quickly loyalty could crumble over differences. It felt unfair, but looking back, I realized that their rejection came from their own fears, not from who I was. Now, let's move to another theme from the movie. Remember how the citizens of Oz banded together against Elphaba? Why? Because it was easier than confronting their own insecurities. This is such a familiar pattern, isn't it? Fear of the other often unites people. I've seen this dynamic play out in work meetings where teams bond over criticizing someone who isn't present. It feels easier to point fingers than to reflect on what we might be avoiding in ourselves. Have you ever found yourself swept up in this kind of group mentality? Now, let's take a closer look at how labels like good and evil shape our thinking. Here's the big question. What if good and evil are just labels? Think of Glinda, the good witch, who manipulates public opinion to maintain her power, while Elphaba, the so-called wicked witch, was simply trying to protect those she loved. I remember a time when I was misunderstood as the difficult one in a project at work. I was pushing for higher standards because I cared about the outcome, but it was easier for others to label me as stubborn or demanding. That experience taught me how quickly we assign labels without looking deeper. This moment in Wicked challenges us to ask, how often do we blindly trust good without questioning its motives? And how often do we condemn evil without understanding its true nature? Now, let's explore the one thing that can help us break through these judgments: empathy. One of the most moving scenes in Wicked is when Elphaba and Fiyero truly open up to one another. Their mutual understanding changes everything. This reminds me of a conversation I had with a close friend after a disagreement. We sat down, and I asked, "What do you feel I am missing?" That one question opened the door to a deeper understanding. Empathy is the key to breaking down stereotypes. But how do we develop it? It starts with learning how to listen. On my channel, I've shared a video on how to listen in a way that ensures you are truly heard. It's an incredibly powerful tool for building deeper connections. If you haven't watched it yet, I highly recommend checking it out. There is a link in the description. Imagine how our lives could change if we listened to one another as deeply as Fiyero listens to Elphaba. When we stop judging and start listening, we discover that the differences between us are far smaller than they seem. So what can we do moving forward? Ask questions. When you feel tempted to judge someone, ask yourself, what do I really know about this person? Cultivate empathy. It's challenging, but it's the most vital skill. Find balance. Good and evil are rarely absolute. Seek the truth that lies between them. How do you perceive good and evil? Have you ever found yourself feeling like you were on the wrong side of a story? Share your experiences in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you enjoyed this video and want to learn more about how challenges and conflicts can become our greatest teachers, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Be sure to hit the notification bell so you don't miss new videos. And check out my video on how to listen in a way that transforms relationships. It's a great companion to today's topic. Thank you for spending this time with me. I'll see you in the next video.